Well, everybody, today is exciting because I have not only one of our top producing agents at Heritage Group, but one of my very, very close friends, Ashley Beasley. Welcome to the podcast.
Thank you.
I am so excited that you agreed to do this. Ashley, I have so many questions for you today, but basically the topic, I guess, if we were going to choose a title, it would be breaking the mold of what it means to be a real estate agent. Because when I think of Ashley Beasley, I don't think of someone who is just a salesperson or somebody that, walks through the door and you're like, oh gosh, there comes Ashley. She's going to try to sell me a house. She's going to want to list my house. Ashley, everyone just loves being around you. They love spending time with you. And your business is a model. If I were a real estate agent today, I would be picking your brain on how do you grow these relationships? How have you gotten to the place that you're at? I know a lot of those answers, but I don't know that everyone knows those answers. So let's get into it. Tell me a little bit about how you got started in real estate. This is your what year in real estate? 13th. Oh my goodness. I did not realize it was your 13th.
Yeah.
And then you are now a broker, a licensed broker, which I'm so excited about because that was one of your goals. And so seeing as your friend, seeing you really attain all of these goals, and also from the perspective of being a mother and a wife and just doing life so well with your family, there's just so many questions I think that you could answer on how do you get that balance? How are you successful and also not compromise your time with your family? So I did come up with a little list of questions because as friends, if I didn't, I feel like we would just be
rambling
over the place. Yakking. So one of the things I want to talk about is just, I think that people who are new to this business and just people who are new to an industry like real estate in general, you have kind of an idea of what success looks like when you first enter this industry. And then maybe as you are more experienced, the view of what that success should be or should look like changes. Mm-hmm. So tell me, what did success look like 13 years ago in your mind? And how has that stayed the same? Is it stayed the same or has it changed?
I mean, it's evolved so much. I think 13 years ago, I was a brand new mom, just had a new baby. I was working for one of the greatest, building companies in Fort Smith and just really trying to figure out kind of, who I was and come into my own. And I actually worked for a builder, right out of college. I graduated from college on a Saturday. I went to work for Cobblestone Homes on a Monday and worked for Sweet Mandy Walker and Rocky and Aaron Worth and I was actually sitting, I worked for them for a couple of years and I was sitting in these open houses and Rocky was like, you need to get your real estate license. And so that's kind of how I stepped into real estate. But I think, years ago, like I thought that success, especially in real estate, was kind of, like you have to have all of these listings and you have to be kind of a bulldog. Yeah. And that's kind of how I perceived it, back then. And now my perception of real estate has evolved so much. And I think Justina probably is a huge contributing factor to that. And you too, and being at HG. But one of the reasons I decided to actually step back into it, because I worked for Cobblestone Homes for a little while, and then I went and I worked for ArcBest and I worked in UPAC for 6 years and had my third baby and decided, I think maybe I need to stay at home. And then I stayed at home for a little while and I was like, maybe I need to go do something else. Maybe I need to go work.
Yeah.
And so that's kind of why I decided to pick up my real estate license again and renew it and really kind of pursue it as a full-time career. And it has just been one of the biggest blessings that I've ever done. But as a mom, you kind of look for an identity, outside of your children. That was kind of one of my very best friends, Lauren. She said, once you become a mom, do not lose yourself. And that was such good advice. And I really feel like, being around, everybody at HG, we're all moms, we're all working moms, we're all just trying to do the best we can. And, but yeah, that's kind of how now, like, success for me is just, having a good work-life balance and building relationships with people. And that is the best part about real estate is just the people and what I get to do and just being a piece of their story. I mean, I'm just a very small part of their story, but the fact that I get to help people and I get to serve, and it's a huge, what I've always wanted to do.
I love that you said the word serve, because when I think of leadership now, when I am, a little bit more seasoned in life and experience, I think of service. I think of the greatest leaders that I want to emulate. One thing that they have in common is they serve well. They love well, they serve well. And so when I think about breaking the mold of real estate agent, I'm with you on how I perceived success back in the day versus now. So back then, I thought if I were to be an outsider looking in on the real estate industry, I thought it was kind of scary. Real estate was kind of scary. I mean, it was intimidating because I thought, oh my goodness, negotiation, that picking up the phone and taking a stand for your clients and saying, no, this is how this deal is going to go, and it's so funny. Even to this day, it can be this way where, and I was having this conversation in the office the other day where maybe it starts with, oh, hey, to an agent, you pick up the phone, you set a listing appointment. Now, I'm not an agent, but I do see this all the time. You set that listing appointment and you're both so friendly. Oh, yes, I'd love to see that listing. It's beautiful. And then your client is going to make an offer, and all of a sudden, that dynamic changes a little bit, and that's okay. That's part of it. Yeah. But what I see from standing where the perspective that I have is not every successful agent is necessarily a bulldog per se, or someone that is feared.
Yeah.
Right.
And that's the thing. I think we actually spoke about this in my broker classes recently. I feel like that was kind of an old school perception back in the day. And now there's a whole generation of agents that we all have the same goal. We all want to get to the closing table, and it does not have to be a fight.
Be more collaborative.
You can absolutely. And if I'm representing a seller, if I'm representing a buyer, I want the same for that agent. I want the same, goals for their buyers or their sellers that they have. Because that's kind of part of the industry. I mean, we have to work together, in order for it to be a good experience for both parties. So
I totally agree. Yeah. And one of the reasons I wanted to have you, Ashley, is not only are you a top producer at HG, but you've also stepped into a role of leadership and, gotten your broker's license. So there is a lot that you bring to the table for the new agents coming up in this industry that want to know, how do you do it? What does success look like? How do I keep that work-life balance? How do I build my brand? How do I get to be an Ashley Beasley level agent? And so cracking the code today, I want to ask you a couple of questions. Real estate being more than just closing deals. So one of the things I've noticed is you have a lot of return clients. You have a lot of referrals. You have a lot of people that come back to you. And I think one of the things we see that's a little bit different than it used to be is clients aren't quite as loyal to one agent. And I will say this as a positive instead of a negative. And what I mean by that is we just know more agents. There are more agents out there. And so a lot of the times I see newer agents, they're like, well, why didn't that person go with me versus the other agent that they knew? What is something that you do that keeps people, and maybe this is hard to brag on yourself, I know, but what are a couple of things that you could say to a new agent that will ensure that they get return clients?
I think a big deal to me. So whenever I first started, I think everybody kind of perceives, it's an industry of sales, but I do not consider myself a salesman. I am more of a matchmaker. Like, I'm not going to go into a house and say, I'm going to sell you on this house. You're going to know immediately if that home is right for you and your family. And I'm not going to sell something to somebody, like oversell something to somebody if it's not the right fit for them. I feel like that is something that all agents really need to keep in mind, especially if you're a newer agent. Because I mean, yeah, like
how do you, when you're walking into a house, playing off that, when you're walking into a house, and I know there's a level of, because for me, my personality, Ashley, I got to do a ride along with Justina the other day, and I got so excited when I walked into the house. I was like, "This is an awesome house! Wow, this is amazing!" You know my personality. This is amazing. What does that look like when you bring a client into a home and you're showing them around? Are you just mainly listening? Are you guiding? Are you listening?
I am absolutely saying, "Oh my gosh, look at this house!" No, yes. Absolutely. You know my personality. Yes. That is me. I get just excited as they do. Yeah. I had a sweet, sweet, sweet couple not too long ago, and they moved here from out of state, and we had looked at several houses. And this last one of the day, I mean, that was it. And we all walked in,
and you just knew, like this was the one.
Like, I mean, we all knew. Like, I mean, it was just such a great. So I feel their excitement just like they do. And as a good agent, I feel like every good agent does that. Like you know your clients, because you've listened to them, and you that's really, really neat. What can you expect if you are new to this industry? Do you kind of have an average on how many houses that you show clients before they fall in love with one? What is the normal? There's really not. I mean, gosh, I've had somebody call me up and say, "Ashley, we're not really in the market. Can we see this house?" And they end up buying that house. Yeah. I have I have clients that I've shown 20 houses to, and we still haven't found the right one. Yeah. So, I mean, it's really a case-by-case basis.
Isn't that what's fun, too, about the real estate industry? And we've talked about this a lot, is no day is the same. No transaction is the same.
No day is the same. No client is the same. No transaction is the same. Mm-hmm. I mean, but that's also the beauty of real estate, too. Yeah. That's why it's so fun.
I think, too, talking about how real estate is changing, and, there was a mold, and I do think it's just evolved so much from where it used to be to where it is today. Agents, I would say people argue sometimes, that you don't do as much, or maybe you don't. And it is so interesting from my perspective, and seeing what you guys do and seeing people come around to, man, I wish I would have just used an agent.
Sure.
Because I think what people don't realize is you are truly a master negotiator. So you can identify in contracts, you can identify on site red flags. I mean, because you have so much experience, and you can save people in quite possibly the most expensive, important investment in their life. You can save them from leaving money on the table, or maybe overspending on a house that they're going to end up having to put quite a bit more investment in. And so, talk about that. Have you had any experiences where you think that your client has come to you and said, "Thank goodness I had a real estate agent"? Do you have any? Yeah.
I've had some, a few for sale by owners, and they're like, we tried to list it by ourselves, and the second, we listed it with an agent, like it sold, and we actually were having a conversation about this morning. Another agent, and it was a client that we both, had the opportunity to help, and yeah, you get that a lot. Like, people are like, "Oh, well, I wish that I would have sold my house for
X amount of dollars."
Yeah, X amount of dollars. And
I have heard that over and over, where you kind of hear, and people want to, value their house and sell it. And then in the back of your mind, you're thinking, I bet they could have gotten a little bit more, because we do know what the market is like.
Sure.
And so
the thing is,
it does help.
When you do use an agent, there's a whole nother, and any agent that's out there, I mean, everybody has a different sphere of influence. So I could have a different sphere of influence in selling your home, and, another agent down the street could have a completely different circle. So
yeah.
As agents, like, I feel like that's what's so important to sell your home, is just to kind of tap into those, sphere of influences that you have. And And that's really
that is so true.
And you try to add value as much as you can. And when I'm working with somebody, I want to make sure like, hey, like, yeah, you're paying me that commission, but I want to be worth that commission.
Yeah. That is something I've noticed because, although we have all these different approaches now with marketing, and I think with Heritage Group, when you think of Heritage Group, you kind of think of marketing and social media and just the way that we try to be different. But then at Heritage Group, we also do the open houses. We do use the traditional methods, and you have definitely done some open houses this year.
I have done some open houses.
For
I have
sure.
cleaned toilets. I have cleaned floors. I mean, that's what you do. I mean, I actually saw Sweet here in Beckner. She made a post and she said, I am a hands-on realtor. And I thought, what a great.
She definitely is too.
Oh, and I just think that is so. I was really impressed by that because, I mean, yeah, to be a good agent, and there are so many different, variations of a good agent, but to me, my definition of a good agent is a hands-on agent, like one that's they're going to walk you through that process from start to finish. And whether it's cleaning toilets or they are going and,
making sure, one thing I've seen is you making sure that for the cold weather, that it's ready to go for the cold. I remember going out with you and doing that. So we've had some adventures.
Faucets.
Guys, we have had some adventures. One story I love is we went out to a beautiful house.
Beautiful home.
And Ashley and I were driving up this driveway, and I can't remember what season it was in, but we were dressed up.
Yeah.
We were dressed up. It was winter, and we drive up and we see a huge tree in the driveway. It was maybe not huge, but to us it was huge.
Huge.
And we popped out and we moved that tree.
Moved it.
We moved the tree.
It in our heels and
in
all.
our high heels.
And one of my other favorite stories of Erica is at another listing. You know exactly what I'm going to talk about.
Oh,
we were trying to get like perfect. Like one thing that HG does so well is our marketing, and that is either if it's print marketing or if it's digital. Our pictures are top notch, and we have an amazing photographer to help us with that. But Erica was like, this is an amazing house. I do not want that basketball goal in that shot. And I look over, and she is like hauling this basketball goal that is like 6 times as big as she is, and just like it was no thing. It was just
listen. We got to do what we got to do. And I am all about making sure that the aesthetic is correct.
You do. That is a big deal.
I am all about that. That is so.
But I think that that's something that people come to expect. Like there's a level of excellence.
You're exactly right.
That that
there
HG provides.
There should be a level of excellence for sure.
And that's exactly right. Like we all should. And I do. I think we all really do a really good job at HG. We strive to hit that level of excellence.
Well, I would agree with you. We might be a little biased, but I agree with you. Let me ask you this. Challenging industry norms. Are there any traditional real estate practices that you have chosen to leave behind, maybe that you don't feel are real successful?
As agents, you kind of have to evolve with the times. And you don't just go and stick a sign in the yard anymore. Like you have to, market that property, do videos. That is something that I really have implemented into my business, is doing video walkthroughs for every listing that I have, whether it's me and they're speaking or if it's just a video. Because people are not going to the real estate magazines anymore to find a house. They're looking on social media. They are looking on Realtor and Zillow or Google, and people are really wanting that wow factor from somebody that's selling their house. And I want to provide that for them.
I think that, don't you think, for me on the outside looking in, I hear about your videos a lot. And I think people do associate you with the fact that you go above and beyond because a lot of the videos. And we preach that at HG. I preach it, that I think those videos are huge. And it's really funny to see, TikTok was gone for like 2 days, and a lot of people couldn't stand that. And I love TikTok. I was embarrassed by how much I missed it. But also now even Instagram is vertical, now. And so we have to keep up with stuff like that so that we have the content. But also, I love the fact that you do that with all of your listings. And what would you say to a younger agent who maybe they are worried about the investment? Because it is a little bit more expensive to do that, just so you know. We at Heritage Group, we've talked about investing back into that listing. If a client is asking you to list their home and putting that trust in you to market it correctly, you should have a budget for that. And it is still shocking to me that there are agents out there who do not do this. And I'm not talking about just video, but any kind of professional photography. I feel like that's extremely important. And so at Heritage Group, one of the things not only do we recommend video and photography, but we'll also pay to have that done and then get paid back at closing. Sure. So we will allow these newer agents who maybe you don't have the budget for it, hey, go ahead and do it. We'll cover it for your clients. And then once you're paid, then you can pay us back. So that's how much I believe it in all the things you're doing as an owner. So that's something that we do.
And that's a huge thing as an agent starting out. I mean, there's so many things that you guys do for our newer agents that just make such a big difference.
Thank you so much.
And, and that helps just build their business, helps build their brand.
Yep.
And, you talked about what do you leave behind as industry, what used to be the industry norm. And, and I think that's, you just look at social media, and see how it's evolving.
It's definitely changing.
Some of my favorite, Instagrammers or influencers are real estate agents. And
you can see how it works.
Yeah.
Well, and one of the things I talk about, and just so we are kind of giving our why behind that marketing, it is because, Arkansas number one last year was the most moved to state, right? And so in order to get eyes on your property as our client, it's important that we are on social media so that people can find us.
Absolutely.
So in every algorithm, when they Google, all of those things are important so that they can get eyes on your property. So that's a way that you could do that as an agent.
And, and if you don't, just going back to my point of the sphere of influence, if you don't have a good sphere of influence, if you had just moved here, that is such a good way to get, your property out there. Yeah. And help
to
build
get your name out there.
Get your name out there.
To make sure that your client's property is being seen.
Absolutely.
So let me ask you this. What do you think clients expect from agents now that they didn't expect 5 to 10 years ago?
I mean, like I had said, I think that there's just a level of excellence that I kind of feel like everybody kind of expects right now. Just the videos, the professional photography, communication. And we all get busy. That sometimes is, I try to communicate as much as I possibly can. And, there's just, I feel like people really expect that. We're coming out of a COVID, a time of COVID. And I think and we're no longer there. We're no longer in that market anymore.
And it's so competitive too, don't you think? And that's why people expect it is now you're having to, as an agent, really set yourself apart.
Absolutely. It's so saturated with agents. And that's a good thing because, everybody wants to come in and I feel like, they do see, the benefits and the value that agents add. And, and I think that that's kind of where they're like, oh, I want to get into this. And Selling Sunset doesn't help.
Selling Sunset did not help us. I'll tell you what, I never watched that show, but it cracked me up whenever I was kind of overhearing bits and pieces, and
which I actually love.
Do you love that show? Ashley loves that show.
I love that show,
and it's just keeping you, and you're up on the time. That's the great thing. I do not watch it, but I think it's interesting how people do kind of get that perception of this is what an agent looks like or does, and I'm over here in Arkansas. It sometimes looks like getting your leaf blower out or mascara. A weed eater. It looks like that. Absolutely. It's a little bit different.
And my sweet husband, if I did not have him, oh my gosh,
I love Brian. He is a real estate husband.
Brian is a real estate husband, and he is the best of the best.
If you don't know Brian Beasley, Ashley's husband, she lovingly refers to him as Sweet Brian Beasley, and he has done a lot for, even for Heritage Group. He's a team player.
He's just the best.
He's the best of the best.
I recruited him last week.
You did?
Because I was like, Brian, like there's smoke detector batteries. Like the smoke detector is beeping. Like we have to go change these batteries. And it was a vacant listing. And so he just put his boots on, like hopped up in there and changed that battery. And
what I'm hearing is you get two people. When you hire Ashley Beasley,
you get me and Brian. You get me and Brian.
You get Brian as well. That's so awesome. Is there anything that you want to say to our audience before we wrap it up?
The questions that I get asked a lot is like, and as agents, like we get, we will have clients that will interview several agents at a time. And I think that's so good.
Yeah.
I think that is so good. And another topic that we covered in our classes the other day, choose an agent when you're looking for one. Choose somebody that has a really good rapport with everybody, because we are all colleagues. And when you have a really good rapport with all of the agents in our industry, like that transaction is going to go very seamlessly. So
that's a great piece of advice, because you're exactly right. Just in general, in business, it's so important to have a good rapport, a good reputation for being able to get to that closing table and make it easy on everyone. It just makes it a lot. And I don't think that's something people think about to do. It's kind of like interviewing for a job and calling references, hey, is this a good fit for me? And I will tell you, in business, I have learned to actually use those phone numbers. And I have interviewed several people and I've hired several people where I wish that I would have done that. So that's a great piece of advice. Great piece of advice.
Because social media is a really good way to do that too. Just see kind of how they're communicating with other agents.
That's a good point.
That would be
research before you hire somebody as your real estate agent. Are they being consistent with their marketing? Are they investing back into that? Because that's money. It's very important that you do that. And if not, then you're going to end up having to move on to someone who will do those things.
Because if I'm investing into your property,
that's right.
That's just going to get you more money for your property. So,
Ashley, as a broker, are you thinking about adding people as kind of like to your team, new agents? Are you open to brokering?
I am. I'm excited for the opportunity and just whatever that looks like. And
mentoring. And so,
my favorite.
If there is anyone out there who's getting into real estate and you're looking for an incredible mentor, I would highly recommend Ashley Beasley. Thank you for taking time out of your busy schedule to be here with me. I hope this is the first of many more where you join us here.
I love a microphone.
You do love a microphone. You have behaved really well today with your spotlight.
I really have.
I love you. Thank you for being here. And they can follow you on Instagram, Facebook. You can list your home with Ashley. She has all the things. I love you.
I love you, Ren.
We'll see you next time.
Bye.